So in Chapter 18, you get to learn a couple different strategies on how to write your compare and contrast essay. So I'm just going to go over, just kind of the basic fundamentals that are presented in that chapter. So this shouldn't take too long, I hope. As I said previously, but just as a reminder, when you're comparing something, you're looking for things that are similar between the two. So what do the two texts that you're working with have in common? What do they agree on? Again, you're looking for the similarities. On the other hand, contrasting is when you look for what's different between the two. So how do they disagree? What do they not have in common? What are their different perspectives on the same issue or topic? So in your paper, you've got to make sure that you do both. You want to find what's similar and you want to find what's different. All right, so probably the most important information in this chapter that I really, really want you to understand is the two different ways to organize your essay. So you can either do the chunking method or you could use a sequence. So chunking is when you work with one text at a time. So you'd only have one text and its information within a paragraph. And then you would move on to another body paragraph and have the other text information listed. So they're not listed at the same time. They're exclusive from each other. But what can be difficult about this form of organization is that when you write a paragraph about text A, for example, and you've got points 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 about text A. When you write your paragraph for text B, you need to have the same points, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, in the same order. That's what can get hard. So if this is how you choose to write your essay, I really don't recommend it. I would much rather see you using a sequence in your organization, and I'll tell you why in a minute. But chunking can get complicated because you have to have those ideas in order between both of your paragraphs, so that when your reader reads that first paragraph, they start to, get an idea, obviously, about what the first text is about. But then when they read the second paragraph, if those ideas are in the same order, they can see the comparison and the contrast going on. If you don't do the same ideas in the same order, it will be chaos. Your reader won't be able to see the comparison and contrast because they won't be able to match the two. They need to be parallel to one another. So whatever things that you look at for text A have to be the same for text B and presented in the same order as you write that paragraph. So if you're going to be that aware of what you're doing, then you can give this type of organization a try. But the one that I really would prefer you to use is the sequence. And the difference between chunking and sequencing is with sequencing, you're using one idea at a time. So say you've got 3 body paragraphs with idea 1, 2, and 3. Within the first paragraph and idea 1, you're working with text A and B about idea 1. Then in the next paragraph, you're working with idea 2 using text A and B, and so on and so forth. So we've talked about synthesis before, and hopefully the repetition is starting to sink in. And so when you're synthesizing, it's when you use 2 different texts at the same time within the same paragraph. So this is an elevated writing skill and even an elevated thinking skill, but it can actually be easier to write. So say you're looking at just a specific perspective on the topic that you're working with. You would say text A says this, text B agrees with this. Then in the next paragraph, you could do the differences. You could say on this, idea, text A says this, but text B is different in this way. So I think it's actually easier to do the sequencing. It's nicer in terms of organization, because then you can go back and look through and say, okay, what's my topic sentence? What's the idea I'm working with within each paragraph? And then what does text A say about it? And what does text B say about it? So you can very easily see if you're working with both texts in the same paragraph to make sure that, you're working with both of them. Otherwise, you're not comparing, you're contrasting. And then you can also see the organization of your ideas that you're working with. I hope that makes sense. So again, chunking, you work with only one text at a time, but the same ideas within the paragraph, whereas the sequencing works with one idea at a time with multiple texts within the paragraph. They're kind of the opposite of each other. So I hope that makes sense a little bit. But really, how you organize your comparison and contrast is very important as to how your reader perceives your comparison and contrast. So be very aware of what you're doing as you start writing and how you use the text to find the similarities and differences. The textbook states 3 different qualities of a successful comparison. So a valid basis for comparison. What is your purpose? What are you trying to do? How are you trying to educate your reader? What do you want your reader to get out of your compare and contrast essay? So make sure that you have a reason for this. And obviously it needs to go further than just, well, I have to do this for a paper. Try to have a purpose in what you're looking for and why you're looking for it. Also, have a limited focus. You are not going to have enough time to compare and contrast everything in your essay. Pick 3 ideas that each essay, each text that you're working with discusses, and then compare and contrast from there. So you want a pretty limited focus. Your paper's not that long. The more focused you are, the easier it is on you, and the better it'll be for your reader. Also, you want to keep your reader's attention with the information that you provide. Don't be dull and boring about it. Give good fact, good detail. Use quotes, things like that, in order to show your reader what the texts are saying about each idea that you're bringing up, as opposed to just summarizing all the time. So really, really keep your reader engaged with the information that you provide them. Also, if you look really quickly, let me turn there, on page 606, there are some sentence strategies. So it's just, you want to use the to define as opposed to argue. You're not writing an argument in this case. But just look at these sentences. I'm not saying that you have to use one of these sentences as your thesis statement, but it should give you a good start. This will help you find your purpose and will help you start to narrow the different points that you're going to bring up in your essay. So pick one of these sentences and build a thesis either from it, or as, just use these as a starter. If this is what you want your thesis to be, that's fine. Otherwise, use one of these and then create a thesis based on that. So that's really all that's going on in this chapter. It's a pretty quick one. But hopefully you got some more help in how to make your essay effective. So as always, if you have any questions or need any clarification or help, just let me know. And happy writing!